fresh start, familiar hurdles. Here's a warm welcome to the year of 2024. European elections are around the corner. The next elections to elect the 705 members of the European Parliament will be held between 6 and the 9th of June 2024. Held over 4 days every 5 years, the elections are regarded as the world's largest cross-border vote, with over 400 million eligible voters from various countries casting simultaneous ballots for their members in the European Parliament. Particular attention this time is set on the likely rise of far-right parties, potentially reshaping the European political landscape. Election results will also impact the composition of the next European Commission and the nomination of its presidency. The result of these EU-wide elections will shape the collective future of Europeans until 2029. But also national capitals will be voting this year. Finland, Slovakia, Portugal, Lithuania, Belgium, Austria and Romania are all called to the ballots this year, either to elect a new president or parliament. In the meantime, on the economic front, the EU confronts the dual challenge of managing post-pandemic recovery and inflation. The European Central Bank will continue to function at full throttle, with a sharp focus on inflation control. Meanwhile, reforms are ongoing to establish a simpler, more user-friendly fiscal framework, while still adhering to debt and deficit limits. While the reform still has to be agreed upon between the Council and the European Parliament, the new European fiscal framework will most certainly be designed with the idea of making it simpler and more personalized to each country's needs and capabilities, but maintaining the current maximum permitted levels of debt, namely 60% of GDP and deficits at 3% of GDP. More tragic than finances is the continuity of war within Europe and other armed conflicts. The ongoing situations in Ukraine and Gaza are testing the EU's strategic autonomy. The EU has 2 conflicts to continue dealing with: the Russian invasion of Ukraine and the war between Israel and Gaza. In the first, the 27 have pending the approval of a total of 50,000 million euros charged to the budget, an amount that is currently blocked by Hungary. The issue is expected to be dealt with at the next European Council summit, scheduled for next February. The situation between Palestine and Israel is more complicated for the Union because of the division among the member states. Right now on the table is the possibility of approving sanctions against settlers in the West Bank, while insisting on the need for humanitarian aid to reach Gaza. The EU is the main donor to Palestine, but also a key partner for Israel, with key member states, such as Germany, fully supporting Israel. The discourse in this sense already seems settled, and the Union insists that it has to defend itself from Hamas, in accordance with international law. The risk for the EU is not new. The situation will become more difficult as the conflict drags on, and decision-making has to be faster. Meanwhile, the EU continues to play a role as a donor and mediator. Not less challenging is what the year might hold for the EU's relationship with the United States. The 2024 US elections could significantly affect EU-US relations, with a focus on the rivalry between Joe Biden and likely opponent Donald Trump. Joe Biden's presence in the White House has softened relations between Washington and Brussels, more in message than in content, as the trade war has always loomed, especially with the US IRA law, which threatened the European industry. But communication channels have been open at all times, and cooperation, especially in defense, has been strengthened, more out of obligation, with the war in Ukraine, than out of interest on both sides. But then, there is China. The first significant electoral event of 2024 is not in Europe nor in America, but in Asia. Taiwan's presidential election scheduled for January 13th. The Chinese government is intensifying its efforts to influence the election outcome, particularly targeting the leading candidate, William Lai. Beijing alleges that Lai supports secessionist ideas, despite his public commitment to not declare independence for Taiwan. Chinese President Xi Jinping declared on Sunday that the reunification of Taiwan with mainland China is an inevitable goal. This situation has raised concerns among Western diplomats, who worry that Beijing may escalate military tensions in the region, employing tactics such as grey zone strategies and coercion in the period between the election day and the mid-May inauguration of the new Taiwanese president. As a result, there is a growing expectation that the United States will shift its focus to this region due to these developments. This, combined with the victory of Donald Trump, could mean a deprioritization of American support to Europe in the Ukraine war. In conclusion, 2024 is shaping up to be a year of significant challenges for the European Union. From potentially pivotal elections to economic recovery, international conflicts, and transatlantic relations, the EU's ride through the year will certainly set the path for years to come.